Hi everyone, how you doing? It's Paul here from Unusual Things. Now we've got an aeroplane flying over our head, which always happens at Mortlake Cemetery and Crematorium. Not surprising really, it's under a flight path. It's going to happen, isn't it? Anyway, today we've come here for another Crime Files one, and that is to see the final resting place of Geoffrey Fox. Now I'll tell you a little bit more about him soon, who was killed in the line of duty. So I'll tell you a bit more about that soon. Don't forget, leave your comments down below once you've watched the video. Let me know what you think. If you do like it, please give it a thumbs up and all that sort of stuff. And we'll get on with it now, and I'll tell you a little bit more about Geoffrey Fox. On the afternoon of Friday, August the 12th, 1966, at 3:17 p.m. at Wormwood Scrubs Park, Sergeant Christopher Head, PC Geoffrey Fox, and temporary detective Constable David Wombwell met an unlawful end. All three officers are in plain clothes and have been working together since the beginning of July. They are the first two crews assigned to patrol the streets of F Division in an unmarked blue Triumph 2000 radio call sign Foxtrot 11. Harry Roberts, John Duddy and Jack Witney's work for that day is to steal a car. After rendezvousing at Duddy's flat of Ladbroke Grove, the three men set off in search of their quarry in Witney's scruffy blue 1954 Vanguard estate car. It is not the most inconspicuous vehicle for three men to drive around London in during broad daylight, hoping to steal cars unnoticed. With PC Fox at the wheel, temporary detective Wombwell in the passenger seat beside him, and Detective Constable Head in the back, the Q car pulls out of the yard at the rear of Shepherd's Bush Police Station in Stan Lake Villas. A few seconds later, the occupants and their unmarked Triumph 2000 Q car are indistinguishable in the busy traffic streaming along Uxbridge Road. The Q car is free to patrol the area of F Division. The territory includes Hammersmith and Fulham, as far as south as the River Thames, Shepherd's Bush in the centre, up to the A404 Harrow Road in the north, and Acton to the west. Their brief is simply to keep their eyes open and from their unmarked police car spot anyone or anything that looks suspicious, and then intervene if necessary. The term Q car, used by the Metropolitan Police, was adopted in 1934 from the code name for the Q ships that operated during the First World War tracking down German U-boats, while disguised as innocent fishing smacks or merchant ships. Shortly after 1 p.m, Duddy, Witney and Roberts finally spot the type of Ford they are after in Harrow, parked down a side street next to the tube station. Roberts and Witney get out of the Vanguard, but Jack Witney is the one with the car-stealing skills. As Roberts later recalled, the morning was gone, and we had not done a thing, so we decided to go to the pub and have some lunch. Still on the lookout for a Ford to steal, they drove south-east down Harrow Road towards central London. Duddy is in the back seat, and between Witney and Roberts in the front is a brown canvas bag. It contains some overalls, a set of cloned car registration plates, and 3 guns belonging to Roberts: a .38 Enfield revolver, a nickel-plated .38 Colt Special, and a 9mm Luger .P08. Back in familiar territory, Witney turns right off Harrow Road and heads south along the A4000, over the railway lines at Willesden Junction. All the while, Roberts in the front passenger seat and Duddy in the back are scanning for the elusive Ford Corsair that they want to steal. In the balmy heat of the afternoon, and after pints of ale at the Clay Pigeon pub, the gang's wits are less than sharp than they had been before lunch. Since becoming unemployed, Duddy has been drinking heavily, and with his wife walking out of the family home 3 weeks earlier, stealing cars is not the most pressing thing on his mind, despite the prospect of much needed income. They head towards East Acton Underground Station. With their attention fixed on looking for a car to steal, Duddy, Witney and Roberts didn't notice that by the time they reached the bottom of the street, they are being followed by a blue Triumph 2000. Groups of children are playing on the browning grass in Wormwood Scrubs Park as Jack Witney turns left at the T-junction into Braybrook Street. 100 yards behind are the 30-foot high brick walls of Wormwood Scrubs prison and the looming cell blocks of the imposing Victorian jail. A little way down the street, Tom Dowdney and Alan Ayton are in their lorry taking an afternoon nap. They have finished their deliveries of the Danish Baking Company and are killing time before returning to the depot. PC Geoff Fox accelerates and draws alongside the Vanguard. Chris Head winds down the front passenger window and waves his arm, signalling Witney to pull over. The Vanguard stops near the curb outside 57 Braybrook Street. PC Fox positions the Q car 130 feet ahead in the middle of the quiet road and keeps the engine running. The haze of the afternoon heat and lunchtime beer clears in an instant as Roberts, Duddy and Witney watch a young man in a dark suit get out of the rear door of the Triumph and start walking towards them. As David Wombwell approaches the Vanguard, he notices that there is no tax disc on the windscreen. Witney winds down his window, and Wombwell bends his back, says he is a police officer, and asks Witney why his car is not displaying a road fund licence. Witney replies that he has no tax disc because the MOT on his car run out. He says he was stopped the previous week for the same offence, which is true, but hasn't had time to sort it out. He appeals to Wombwell to give him a break. Wombwell listens patiently and then asks Witney's driving licence and insurance certificate to be produced. Witney reaches into the glove compartment and hands them over. Wombwell looks at the documents for a moment and then walks back to the Q car. He's noticed that Witney's car insurance has run out 3 hours earlier at 12 noon that day. While Wombwell discusses with DS Head, the senior officer, Witney's lack of MOT, insurance and tax discs, and they decide what action to take. A time bomb in Harry Roberts' mind is ticking down. In the canvas bag between him and Witney are these 3 loaded guns beneath some overalls. His friend and landlady June Howard had warned Roberts that he'll get 15 years if he is caught with unlicensed firearms. Although this was an exaggeration, surprisingly Roberts had never thought to check the penalty before deciding to carry guns and is so woefully unaware of it. There are 2 choices open to him in the few seconds that he has to think. He could try to conceal his guns and hope they won't be found if his car is searched. Removing them from the bag and concealing them somewhere less obvious might work. Alternatively, Roberts could simply surrender the guns if it comes to it and take his chances in court. While Head and Wombwell are discussing what to do, Roberts reaches into the canvas bag and takes out the Luger P08. By the time Head and Wombwell are walking back to the Vanguard, the Luger is concealed under Roberts' grey jacket. At the driver's window, Wombwell leans down to speak to Witney. Head goes to the other side of the car and looks in. He tries to open Roberts' passenger door, but it's locked. Roberts ignores him. Head asks Duddy to open the canvas bag that is still on the floor between the front seats. Duddy pulls out the overalls and shows them to him, but Head says he wants to see what else is in the bag. On the other side of the car, Witney's pleas are getting him nowhere. Wombwell looks into the car, eyeing each man in turn, and asks to see what's in the back. In the front passenger seat, Harry Roberts pulls out the Luger from his jacket, extends his arm towards the open driver's side window, shouts "fuck off" and pulls the trigger, shooting DC Wombwell through the left eye and killing him instantly. Propelled by the force of the impact, Wombwell's head flies back. His lifeless body goes down like a falling tree and he ends up lying flat on his back in the roadway, staring skywards and with his pencil still in his hand. As the shot rings out and echoes across the adjacent parkland, nearby children stop and watch in disbelief. DS Head starts running back towards the Q car, shouting "No, no, no." In one swift movement, Roberts leaps from the Vanguard, aims his gun at DS Head and fires. The shot hits Head in the centre of his back and he goes down. Roberts runs over, Chris Head kicks out, Roberts grabs his legs, aims his weapon at the officer's face and pulls the trigger. There's a click but the gun doesn't fire. Roberts lets go of the detective's legs, takes a step back and ejects the jammed cartridge. With the chamber cleared, Roberts tries to take hold of Chris Head's flailing legs and gets kicked in the face, the blow splitting his lip and making his nose bleed. Steadying himself, Roberts aims the gun again and pulls the trigger. There's another click, and again the old Luger doesn't fire. Head scrambles to his feet, stumbles back towards the Q car to take cover and collapses in front of the bonnet onto the road. Deducing that Roberts' gun has jammed, Fox starts to reverse the Triumph at him in an attempt to run him down, backing away from Chris Head, who is lying directly in front of the Q car. Roberts turns the Vanguard and shouts, "Come on." His brain still fogged from the lunchtime beer, Duddy takes the .38 Enfield service revolver from the bag and half falls out of the near side passenger door of the Vanguard. As he gets out, Robert screams, "Get the driver!" Duddy raises his hand and aims his weapon at the Q car. With his life in tatters and alcohol fuzzing his mind, Duddy pulls the trigger and the near side rear window of the police car explodes, as does the driver's quarter light. The bullet narrowly misses Jeff Fox's chin. Suddenly realising that there's another gun, Fox hits the brakes. The next round from Duddy's revolver also misses Fox and shatters the windscreen, leaving a gaping hole where it exists in front of Fox's face. Fox puts the automatic gear shift into a forward drive. It takes a couple of seconds for the Triumph automatic Borg Warner gearbox to engage before the car starts pulling away. Duddy runs forward and fires again at close range through the shattered near side passenger window. The third shot hits Geoffrey Roger Fox in his left temple. As Fox is hit by Duddy's third round, his foot reflexes down on the accelerator and the police car launches forward, driving over DS head and wedging his abdomen and legs under the Triumph. The rear offside wheel of the car is half lifted off the ground. The tyre squeals against the tarmac. There's a smell of burning rubber and smoke. The hot exhaust pipe sears through Head's dark suit and into his flesh of this critically injured body. Meanwhile, Witney has grabbed his documents back from Wombwell, who is lying dead on the roadside beside his car. The Vanguard is already moving backwards when Duddy leaps in. For a moment, Roberts thinks he's going to be left behind. He runs and dives into the front passenger seat. Witney shouts, "You must be fucking potty. Drive unless you want some of the same." Roberts yells, "Go, go, go." So there's all the information there about Geoffrey Roger Fox. Such a sad, sad situation for what happened to him. And we'll have a little look now for his final resting place. I think I found it. And here is the final resting place of Geoffrey Roger Fox. It reads, Geoffrey Roger Fox, who died so tragically on August the 12th, 1966. A well-beloved husband and father, so sadly missed by his children, Anne, Paul and Mandy, and his first wife, Margaret. So sad. And recently we came to see WPC Jane Arbuthnot, and she's there, so she's literally a couple of graves away from Geoffrey Roger Fox. So there we have the final resting place of Geoffrey Roger Fox, and I've got to say thank you, Geoffrey, for your service. You know, you didn't deserve to go to work that day and not come home, just doing your job, and to be shot. And I've said it before, and I said it here last time when I was talking about Jane's murder. You know, these people don't join the job to get abused, to get shot at, to get attacked. They join up to help people. Now, I know a lot of people have different ideas about the police, and that's fine. You're entitled to it because everyone has their own experience. But, you know, we can't tarnish everyone from a few bad apples. Whatever line of work you go into, there's always a few bad apples. That's just humans. There's bad people out there, and sometimes they end up in police, fire service, ambulance, NHS, anywhere and everywhere. You know, the armed forces, parliament, you know, prime ministers. Everyone has a bad apple somewhere. So we can't tarnish them all with that. The majority of them do good work, and they help us. And if, you know, you need them any time in your life, if you get stuck or a member of your family goes missing, or they're injured, or they're assaulted, or anything like that, they're the first people you turn to, and they're the ones that have to go running in 9 times out of 10 to help and solve problems that go on in the world. So, you know, I think they get a bit of a tough time sometimes, and I know with a lot of media that's gone on lately in the news, people are being brought before the courts, and so they should. You know, if you're doing anything that's out of order in your job, and it jeopardises the public's faith in you, or the public per se, then yeah, you should pay the consequences for that, and that's the way it should be. Anyway, that's it today. Please leave your comments down below. I'm sure I have a lot of people disagreeing with me, and that's fine. I don't mind you disagreeing, just don't be rude, okay? You're allowed to disagree, we're all allowed opinions, and that's great. You have them. I'm cool with that. I don't mind that. If you liked the video today, please give it a thumbs up, and of course, if you haven't done so, maybe subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all on the next one. Take it easy.